Okay, guys, hey, welcome. It is 8/14/2024. And we have a beautiful day here in Conneaut. Just the sun is shining. D-Day is in the air. D-Day Conneaut is amongst us, and we are expecting a whole ton of people to come and actually watch this reenactment. So be patient. We'll have to have a lot of patience this week. Our small little town is going to be just overwhelmed with all kinds of people walking and driving and all kinds of stuff. But so far the weather for the last 3 days has been just outstanding. Outstanding. Not too hot, not too cool. Just perfect sunny blue skies, just beautiful in Conneaut, Ohio. We have a special guest, and he is going to talk about the Conneaut Human Resource Center. Ryan Tattrie, Executive Director of the Conneaut Human Resource Center, is with us. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for
Oh,
having me.
man, this is a fantastic honor. I think I've been trying to chase you down for probably the last 6 months to maybe a year, and so I'm really excited about to hear who Ryan is and what is going on at the Human Resource Center.
Wow. I hope we have enough time to cover everything.
We
I
have
can
all kinds of time.
I can start. So I'm actually not a native Canetian. I'm actually a transplant. I first moved up here in 1999. My wife at the time was a physician with she was being recruited by university hospitals, and she's from the south part of the county. And so we ended up here in Conneaut, looked around all the different areas, Jefferson and Ashtabula, and we settled on Conneaut. It had a lot of features and things that we liked about it. The lake, we had a newborn son at the time. And so we were kind of excited about, a new beginning here. It seems like when I look back at my life, Conneaut is actually the place that I've lived the longest in my life. So I kind of look at it now as being um, home. I've lived a lot of places around the country. I was born in Boston. I grew up in Arizona. Then I went to high school and college in North Carolina. First job out of college, I was in Southern California. I've just bounced around from coast to coast, and somehow ended up in Ohio, in this little town up on Lake Erie. And when I look at some of the places that I've lived, I kind of go, how did I end up here? That's it's kind of, but at the same time, I wouldn't change a thing. I've met some wonderful people. My kids have gone through the entire school system here. They've lived their entire lives here. It is their home, and so for me and the family post divorce, we the kids and I they're off. They're older now. My son's 25. And my daughter's 21. So we kind of this has been their life. So I have no intentions of going anywhere. I have family all around the country, so when I want to settle in and see some family, I find myself traveling. They have come and visited a few times. It's hard to, if you want a place to just relax and sit by the beach at the lake and enjoy that sort of thing, it's great. If you're looking for amusement parks and lots of museums and history and there's a lot of history here, but not a lot of, big city kind of stuff. So
Right, right.
every once in a while they'll come here and settle in for a week or so and enjoy the lake and what we have to offer them. And on a day like today where the weather is beautiful, I honestly believe that these are the kind of days, nice breeze coming off the lake, the sun shining. That's why a lot of people stay here.
Yep. I often said, if you want to relax, you've got to come to Conneaut.
Yeah.
But if you want the hustle and bustle, you got to go somewhere else because we're just not about that.
Yeah, it's funny. My sisters live out in Phoenix, and so it's one of those kind of things where when I tell them that a traffic jam, you're talking 4 or 5 cars. You might not even make the light, but that's pretty rare. It doesn't. You don't have to worry about the traffic or anything like that.
And,
And going to the grocery store, there's not a whole lot of lines, so you're doing okay.
and you always know that you're going to get stopped by a train sometime, somewhere. You're going to get stuck by a train.
Absolutely, yeah. And then the fact that we have 2 tracks going through town, she's like, "How did you end up with two?" And they were like, "Oh, we thought one wasn't enough, so they put another one in for some reason." And just to make sure the kids were going to be late for school, we put two of them in.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of life as far as how I got here. I It's been an interesting journey since we got here because I ended up um, because I was kind of dislocated. I had a software company before we got married and started having kids, and it was really hard to keep up with technology and that sort of thing at the time. The internet was, literally. I still have my original email from 1980 or 1993 when the internet started booming and people were getting emails and that sort of thing. And I still use that same AOL email account. And people always look at me like,
No way.
AOL?
You have an AOL account?
I do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Does it still say you got mail?
It doesn't actually. I used to love those words when you log on and the modem would be screaming at you, and all of a
Oh
sudden you got
man.
mail.
Gosh,
Uh,
I remember them days.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I like when I have something, I kind of have a tendency to hold on to it. And so those when we decided that I was going to stay home, take care of the kids and that sort of thing, life kind of transitioned from professional workspace into family workspace, raising the kids. I also became very active in the fire department. I was at Station 3 for a long time. Met some wonderful people there. That I went to a pancake breakfast one time when Station 3 used to have every spring. We'd have this big pancake breakfast, and we lived over on Furnace Road at the time. And so I just thought, hey, this pancake breakfast is going on. Let's go over and talk. And 2 guys, Vince Gildone and Mike Goodwill. They were talking to me and they said, "Hey, you should, come over on Tuesday nights and see what you think about helping and volunteering." And that turned into, 15 years of waking up at 2 a.m. when the pager would go off, and became a paramedic and a firefighter and did all of that, which was, some of the best years of my life. I, still a paramedic now. I still do some things with training and that sort of thing, but it's a younger man's game, and at my age, I kind of feel like, okay, I don't mind not getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning anymore. That's kind of a, that's kind of a nice thing, but it was a really, really a good time in my life. A lot of service oriented things, everything from car accidents where people were really in trouble, and some other calls of just 85-year-old woman sitting on her floor because she can't get up to get back into bed. And those kind of, when you get into that mode of, regardless of what the call is, somebody needs help. And that's kind of been a standard throughout my life. People broken down on the side of the roads, I'll usually stop and see if there's something, that I could do. I like to think God's blessed me with the ability to be able to, even when something really bad is happening for somebody, I realize that it's not my emergency. I didn't cause it. I didn't, I'm not really involved with it. And so I have a tendency to stay pretty calm about things. And hopefully at the end of it, I can help them enough to where they get through it. And that's kind of transitioned into what I do now every day. And it was truly a blessing learning how to be that patient and considerate of people, regardless of what they were going through. Not a lot of judgment, not a lot of anxiety over, somebody's leg is, cut off or something. it doesn't bother me as much as how can I help? What can I do to help you get through this? So
Wow. So
yeah.
this seems to be a perfect transition then.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was, and what's amazing is the same gentleman that got me into the fire department. One day he said he was on the board here, Vince Gildone, and he said, I have to go over to the center because I need to repair this oven that they have that they use in the kitchen. And he goes, "You want to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go over." And so the next thing you know, we're inside this oven repairing the motor and getting it up working again, and next thing I get a little packet he hands me, and it's, "Oh, you want to be a board member at the Conneaut Human Resource Center." So I ended up getting on the board. That would have been probably 2010, 2012, something like that. And then that service side of it, the responsibility side of it, and the growth and the direction of where the center was going was kind of on my mind. And then being on the board for several years, we were getting a new president of the board, and Nick Irochi was on the board at the time, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "I think you would be perfect as the president of the board for the Human Resource Center." And so I kind of said, "Wow, that's nice that you would say that. It seems like a lot, but if you think I can do this, I'm willing to give it a try." And so I ended up I was on the president of the board of directors and trying to move in the direction. At the time, Debbie Newcomb was the former director here. And she and I worked really well together. She put in a lot of good years here, established a lot of programming and stuff that we did, and a lot of logistics, it was a really good time for us. She ended up moving on to a different position, and and the board we kind of formed a search committee of, okay, who's going to take, who are we going to get for the next director position, and they kind of came back to me a couple of times and said, we're not really sure who we can get for this position. It doesn't pay well. It's a lot of hours. It's, all of the things that any normal person would say, no, I can't do that. And then it came up one night, you would be perfect for this job. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if that's something I, I would really want to do. So I thought about it a little bit, prayed a little bit about it, and tried to figure out, if this is something I could manage, and doing some of the consulting stuff on the other side of my life. It seemed like it was something that I could do. I seem to have found myself in a position where, it's part time. It's 20 hours a week. How difficult could it be? I It's hard to do just 20 hours a week in a position like this. I find myself, upwards of 40, 50, 60 hours sometimes. So it's kind of I don't want to say it's a calling. I think it's an opportunity. I think and if you only do it part time or part effort, I kind of look at that, as it just, I just didn't feel like I would be putting in enough that I needed to be putting in. So it's kind of evolved into more, this is where I'm going every day. If I can, get everything done and I'm out by noon, great. Usually doesn't happen. But as soon as, if I can take a Friday off or something here and there, it helps me kind of rejuvenate and get some of the other things done that I need to do with my life. But
Right.
yeah.
But in your position, you're always talking about the resource center.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just that's kind of just something that is part of the executive director.
Yeah. I don't want to say I'm the face, but when it comes to um, the perception and what people know about it, and we've been battling this for a long time. So moving into the position, when I ended up, we had the conversation. I said, okay, yes, I'll do this. There was a transition period of, okay, as a board member, I'm talking about, where the boat needs to go. As the director, I'm steering the boat of where, the board basically says, we want to move in this direction. And I figure out, okay, how are we going to get it from here to there? So it's hard because I have a tendency to plan bigger things. I like the scope of an organization, the culture that it creates, and that sort of thing. What I ran into though is I was hired in September of 19. I was here for 3 or 4 months, and COVID hit. And so I was all of a sudden, I'm in a position that I've never dealt with pandemic kind of stuff. I've never, I'm just now figuring out operations and how things need to click and how people are coming in the building and what we're doing with them and everything else. And everything changed. Literally that first 6 months of doing my job went right out the window. I might as well have not even been here because it was when COVID happened. We were doing everything differently. I had to lay off people. Um, a lot of people don't realize the Human Resource Center is not a government agency. We get no tax base. There's nothing. The city doesn't provide us, any kind of tax dollars or anything to operate. We're a private nonprofit, and we rely on donations and grants from like the United Way and the Senior Services Levy and those kind of organizations to help fund everything that we do here. And so it was hard, going into COVID, and I'd only been there 6 months, and I'm laying people off. And that layoff came about because of part of our funding is some of the clubs in town that do the instant bingo tickets and stuff through the Ohio Gaming Commission. They're required to donate to a nonprofit. And so that funding source, once they closed all the clubs and everything, that funding source totally evaporated. And that is basically helping to pay payroll and keeping the lights on and, the things that we do that are not, it's much easier for me to say somebody gives $1,000 donation and I know that, okay, it's going to go to the food pantry, it's going to go to the Right Track program, it's going to help the seniors. People like giving to those things. People don't like to give to help pay the electric bill. So that's why that funding was so vital to us to be able to do payroll and the utilities and the things that we were having to do. And when that dried up, well, I was nervous. I thought, the organization has been around for 52 years. And all of a sudden I take the job and now we're having to close our doors. I was like, I cannot believe this is going to be my legacy that I closed the Human Resource Center. But we kind of buckled down a little bit. They were off for a while, and I ended up bringing almost all of them back. And now post-COVID, we're now kind of being reborn again as to, okay, we have a new direction. What is it that we're going to try and accomplish? How are we going to do these things? And so the last year and a half or so has been this movement towards a better strategic plan, because I do not want this place. I don't think this place could ever fail. I mean, we would love to go out of business. If people didn't need to have food pantry and utility help and rent help and the things that we provide here, I would love that to happen, that people never had to knock on the door. But at the same time, it's unrealistic. There's too many things that happen in life that these kind of services, while we see this trend, it goes up and down. Sometimes people need us, sometimes they don't. During COVID, it's amazing because our numbers took a nosedive. I mean, we were not providing hardly any services for food pantry or anything because the government had stepped in and gave $600 a month to EBT cards for food for people to shop at the grocery stores, and that's huge for a family. And when they do that, they don't have to come into the food pantry and get the food that they were getting before. So, and food was not as available to us during that time too, because the deliveries from Cleveland and the way we were getting our food, we didn't have as much as we had before. Right towards the end of COVID, everything went nuts. We had more food than we knew what to do with, but couldn't give it away because people still had, funds and stuff from the government. The checks that we got, I can't remember what they're called, but those government checks that people ended up receiving helped families out tremendously.
Stimulus checks, weren't they?
Right, yeah, the stimulus checks, yeah. And so that was it kind of made us feel like, wow, if this keeps going, we could run the government's debt up to who knows what, but at the same time, families are being helped, and it was kind of a double-edged sword there because I think it caused some families some problems. I'm sorry about that. Um, but a lot of it is, you're just not. Um, it was helpful, but at the same time, it gave people maybe a little bit too much comfort level to where they weren't working as hard to make sure that they were doing what they needed to be doing. That there's no difference between a family that has a hard time budgeting $1,000 a month and budgeting $2,000 a month. They still end up in the same result. If you don't understand that your income has to, be higher than your expenses, you end up in the same boat regardless of how much money is sitting in your bank account.
Right.
So, and then so post COVID, we've really kind of transitioned a little bit. The center itself, like I said, I mean, it's been around. If you want to jump to, if you want to try and throw those pictures up,
Yeah.
So back in 1978, um, the it wasn't called the Human Resource Center at the time. It was I can't remember the name of the family, but they started a food pantry. And I get two different stories with this. One is say it was on Broad Street. The other one says it was on Sandusky Street, that it was in somebody's house. And if people needed food assistance, they could go to this person's house. After doing that for years, probably 4 or 5 years, they figured out, okay, we need a bigger place because a lot of families were struggling with things. And in 1985, which is so this building that we're in right now used to be the Loblaws grocery store. And that was, and it's so funny when I look at this picture because I see those snow piles in the parking lot. And to this day, if I put a Loblaw sign across the front of the building in the wintertime, it looks exactly the same. The snow piles are always still there in the wintertime. And it's just one of those kind of things that Northeast Ohio lets us know that, yep, it's wintertime and we're going to see the same pictures of piles of snow everywhere.
And we always know that it's going to be coming because the leaves disappear.
Yep. It's like a good warning sign. Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Yeah. So in 1984, some people in the community, one of the major leaders at the time was Tim Krause, minister over at Church of Christ. I think is the church that he's at. And he was instrumental in getting the incorporated side of the building into a nonprofit and that sort of thing. And we got our status with the state. And they were able to, through the Ashtabula County, the CDC, Community Development Corporation, they helped us get this building. And then renovations started. We started, putting in offices because it was a grocery store, wide open spaces, cash registers that were in the front of the building where the glass block windows are. That's where all the cash registers were. And we put the one side of the building, we turned into offices and had the health department. The health department from the city is in our building, which a lot of people, there's been discussions about whether they needed to be moved over to City Hall or to do something different. And Nichelle Blood, who is the health commissioner, she and I have conversations all the time and how vital it is for the services that they provide to people and the services that we provide. It makes it really nice. It's a one-stop shop for people to be able to come in and get vaccinations for their kids and then stop by the food pantry and get some food that they need, or the Right Track program, if some of their kids are interested in doing the after school program, they can do that as well. So it was vital that they are in the building. I hope they get to stay for a long time. We try and make it attractive for them as far as rent and that sort of thing goes. And it's a really good relationship that we have with them. And then we have some other tenants in the building that help pay for our functioning of being able to provide the service that we do. I guess I need to touch on, there's 3 signature programs that we have. Obviously the food pantry, and then there's what's called the Seniors Together, which is senior. They come in about 9:30 in the morning. They get programming as far as health issues and things about their home and scams and all kinds of university hospital sends people out and talks to them about diabetes and things that they may be experiencing, or if they have any questions about anything, they're able to get those things answered. And then we have the Right Track program, which was started back in 1996. And it's an after school program for kids from second to fifth grade. And it started out as kind of Gail Castrillo was one of the first people that were implemented this program as kind of a counseling, but not necessarily, go see a counselor once a week or something for the kids. It was more of an environment that the kids were used to. It's a classroom environment. They're around other kids. For a lot of the kids, socialization and getting along with other kids is real important. And a lot of kids struggle with that. And so the Right Track program was designed for them to be able to learn how to work well with other kids, how to make friends, how to, get your homework done and still be able to have playtime and do things that you want to do with your friends. We also feed them every day after school. A lot of kids, when they come home from school, are really hungry. And so we feed them as well. We have a great relationship with Lori Riley over at the Conneaut schools. They actually bus the kids from school to the center. They're here every day after school until 5:30, when their parents come and pick them up. So it gives the parents kind of the ability to stay at work a little bit longer. Plus also, I have letters all the time from parents that are saying, I'm so thankful that, my child was in this program because they're much nicer, they're much happier, they're able to do their homework better. And so the program has been real vital for those second to fifth grade kids. We've thought about expanding it. There was a point where they had set up in town the One Step program. It was for sixth grade through high school, and they wanted to have their own space, and they ended up in the Burdick's building over there, and it ran for a couple of years. And we offered to have them come here, but we didn't really have enough space for them to have a dedicated space. And then the board actually was talking about whether or not, when they were closing it, we had thought about, do we want to take this on? Do we, and it would entail a much larger group of kids, a different age group of kids that we hadn't really experienced before. But at that point, we would be covering almost the entire spectrum of people, that are having difficulties from, early grade school all the way through to seniors. It would fit in what we're trying to accomplish. But right now, the new center that opened up over there on Main Street, I can't remember what it's called. But
the youth center?
Yeah, the youth center.
CYC?
Yeah.
CYC.
Yeah, so that them opening up over there, I think, has been wonderful. I'm trying to, support everything that they're doing over there, just to make sure that, we are taking care of all the age groups. We, the Human Resource Center, might not be taking care of all of them, but at the same time, we're going to support, any other group that's wanting to do that. And I always try and, tell people all the time, I'm not competing, because funding in a small town like this is hard. Everybody does fundraisers. Everybody tries to, and when you have an organization that's as big as we are, it helps to get all the funding that you can. But at the same time, when somebody's saying to me, well, I thought about, donating to the youth center, it's kind of like, absolutely, you should. Absolutely support all of these programs the best that you can. I said, if you feel like you've supported them and you have other monies that you're wanting to help support, then talk to me. We can figure out ways to help, not only with money, but also volunteering. And we all need help doing these kind of programs. And so I never discourage anybody or try and say, oh no, don't give to anybody else. Give it just to us. That's not what we're about. So,
right.
So that's pretty much our signature programs that we manage and maintain. We also have an extension of the senior program. We do things through the Senior Services Levy, which is our homemaker program, and our chore services, which is anybody over 60 years old. They can sign up to have somebody come and help clean their house 1 hour every other week. And those programs are designed to keep seniors in their homes longer. We've found that if, they're much happier, they're much healthier. If you can just give them a little bit of help, an hour every other week doesn't seem like a lot. But if they can't run their vacuum cleaner, it's really hard to not have, dust accumulate and that sort of thing. And if you can just give them a little bit of help, an hour every other week, it totally changes their environment and makes it better for them. Their families like it. If they don't have any kids in town that are helping them, we love hearing from out of town family members saying, I'm so glad that they're signed up in this program because we were worried about having to put them in a nursing home, but they're able to stay another 5 years, 7 years or something in their own home. So,
Yes, and that's fairly a new program, correct?
well, not really new. We've been doing that since 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been around for quite a while. It's kind of transitioned a little bit. I have resumes all over my desk right now for people that we're hiring another homemaker. We have three presently. We're going to expand to a fourth one.
Okay.
We have probably close to, I want to say 70 seniors right now on those programs.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a good thing that we're doing. It's hard. Once again, you're talking about government agency. It's run through the Ashtabula County Jobs and Family Services. Patrick Arcaro over there, he's great at trying to make sure we get the funding that we need to run these programs. We've had some things where we've had to request more funds, and we run it through him, and he's blessed us with being able to say, yep, you can do those things. I had a woman just last 2 months ago. We applied for, she was having mobility problems, and her walker wouldn't fit through the doorways of her house. And so we found a contractor that would be willing to come in, expand all the doorways in her house so she could literally go from one room to another. And I, basically sent Patrick a letter and saying, this is what we want to do. And they said, that's great. That fits into one of these programs that we have. Let's do this and try and get her, taken care of. And so we were able to pay to have somebody come in and expand the doorways. And that's what, having those resources is amazing, because most people, for a senior to say, I'm going to hire a contractor to do this, a lot of people don't have a couple $1,000s sitting around to be able to hire somebody to do that kind of work.
Right.
And so having the access of being able to utilize those programs is fantastic. So that's the homemaker. There's a chore service that we do for people to, in the spring, picking up sticks in their leaves, mowing their grass, trying to get, a broken wooden plank on their deck or something that they're worried about stepping into or something like that. We can replace those things. Just minor things. We don't do, we're not going to seal a basement or something like that, or put in a whole new driveway or something. We don't, it's not that kind of chore service. It's, my outside light on my deck is out, and I like to be able to turn my light on at night so I can see who's out on my deck or whatever it is. Those are the kind of things that we're doing.
Right.
And then we kind of the other people in our building, Signature Health, several years ago, we had discussions about barriers for people. That people in Conneaut, because Signature Health was over in Ashtabula and Paynesville, and community counseling was over there, I had both organizations come to me almost at the same time. But one of them got to me first. And so we ended up, Signature Health wanted to come in and set up some counseling offices because people were having a hard time getting from Conneaut to Ashtabula for their services. And so we made it available that we would be able to provide office space for them to be able to come in. And once again, the clientele, it fits right into what they're needing to do. They can bring their kids for counseling and then go to the food pantry, or they can, whatever immunizations, they can do all kinds of things in the same building, which makes, if people are struggling, chances are fuel costs the way they are, it's hard for them to get from one town to another. So if I can say, hey, all you need to do is get out one time, get to my building, and we'll take care of 4 or 5 things for you all at the same time.
Wow.
And that's what makes it real appealing and nice for a lot of these people. Let's see, who else is in the building? Salvation Army, they do a lot of things when it comes to utility help. I read it must have been last year sometime, that it was like 80% of people in America can't afford a $400 emergency during a month. And when I read some of those numbers, I was like, it's exactly what we're living in, because I have people in my office every day that come in and say, I had my brakes go bad on my car. I had to, I have to get to work. I had to replace the brakes, but at the same time, I can't pay my electric bill, and all of a sudden, they're having to choose one expense over some others. And if things like food, I don't want them to choose, okay, we're not going to have as much food, or we're going to, skip lunches for a couple of weeks until we can figure out how to do this. That's not what, people shouldn't have in this country, in this day and age. We really shouldn't have those kind of situations happen. But it also comes down to the people. I tell my staff every time I hire somebody, I look at the spectrum of people that we have in this community, and I call it my 80-10-10 rule. We have 10% of the people that, no matter what, they're going to try and take advantage of the system. They're going to, try and get as much food as they can. They're going to try and get utility help as often as they can, that sort of thing. I always tell my staff that 10% of the people, don't worry about them. It's a cost of doing business. Don't be a detail, because we have people come in and say, I haven't been here in 6 months, when, we have records of them having, their spouse came in last month or something, for the household. And I always tell my staff, don't be a detective. It doesn't, for whatever reason, they feel like they need to be doing this right now, just let it be. Okay. Provide them the food that they need. It's a cost of us doing business. Let it go. Then you have 80% of the people that do everything by the book. They'll come when their appointments are scheduled. They're going to, only, ask for help when they absolutely need it. Sometimes they just struggle. And that's the people I want to focus on. And then this last 10% of people, which I've experienced since I've been here 5 years, I probably had half a dozen of these 10% people. And they're the people that, no matter what in their life is going on, how difficult it is, they're not going to come through these doors. It's just, whether it's pride, whether it's embarrassment, whether it's, I don't need help. You need to help those people, whatever it is, they just won't come through the door. I'll tell you a little quick story about a gentleman that came in one time, and he's in the lobby, and he's looking at the board, and he's, just trying to read all the signs and everything that we have, all the programs that are available. And he's standing there, and my secretary comes in, and she says, I got this guy in the lobby, and he hasn't come up to the window yet, and I'm not sure what, he's just reading stuff, and I'm not sure what's going on, and I don't know if I should go out there, or, what do you want me to do? And I said, let me go out and see what's going on. And so I go out, and I'm talking to him, and I said to him, have you been helped? And he said, no. He said, I don't really need help. I said, okay. I said, are you looking for someone, or is there, can I point you in the right direction? And he kind of said, well, he goes, and he just kind of paused for a second. I said, why don't you come in and sit down in my office, and let's talk for a little bit. And so he comes in, and we're talking, and he tells me, he's a plumber by trade. He had been laid off during COVID, and he basically, they have 3 kids at home. Life was going good. They're paying all their bills. They're doing everything they needed to be doing. And about 3-4 months goes by, and his wife says, maybe we should, we're going through our savings a little bit faster than I thought we were going to go through them. She goes, maybe you should go up to the Human Resource Center, see if we can get some help with food and that sort of thing. Well, this guy was one of that 10%. I can only imagine how long he was sitting in the parking lot trying to get up the courage to come in the door, because he was, ashamed. He did not want to be there. And I just we talked. I told him, about the things, I told him the stories about when I was a kid, and my dad went through a really bad divorce, and I ended up, my mom, she ended up being out of the household, so I was living with my dad, and I used to go in and try and, lunch money before school. I think it was like 65 cents we used to buy lunch for. back in those days. And sometimes there would be money sitting on his nightstand. Sometimes there wouldn't be. And my dad was this guy. There was no way he was going to be, asking anybody for help. We were going to get through this, and I, I admire it, but at the same time, it's not something that people should be ashamed of. It's just circumstances that you're in, and there are people and there are organizations that have the resources to not fix your problem, but to help you get through something. If your kids are if you're struggling with having your kids eat, there comes a point where you have to say, that's more important. I need to put my pride aside for a second and figure out how I'm going to get through this, because what I'm doing isn't working. And so by the end of it, he had told me we had helped out, got him some food, helped out with some of his utilities. Um, Literally, I think he came back one other time the following month. He got a little bit of food, and I've never heard from him again. Not another, nothing. I'm assuming, hopefully, he got back on his feet, got his job, whatever he needed to be doing, and everything is wonderful in their life. Um, but I know that those things happen because there's times where I'll get a donation with a note that says, hey, 5 years ago I was struggling with things. I don't have a lot right now, but here's $100. I hope it helps. And those are the kind of things that, uh, regardless of how bad a day we think we're having, those kind of rewards make, the pay or anything, the hours, it makes it all really kind of worth it when you come across those situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, so let's see. That's Salvation Army, and those help. We also have a huge hall that we rent out. I'm sure if you've lived in Conneaut long enough, you've either been to a wedding reception or a reverse raffle or some sort of political voting. We have a big facility, about 20,000 square feet here. Um, and the idea of having that hall space, we did a wedding, not this spring, but last spring. A girl came in and she said, my grandmother had her wedding reception here. My mom had her wedding reception here. I think I have to have my wedding reception here. And I'm like, absolutely you do. I'm like, I'm sure in our books, we probably have pictures from their weddings. You're probably in some of these. But it's nice to see that because we've been around so long, that generational uh, ability to tap into some of those emotions for people, it's a good thing, especially when people get helped and they realize that, it did help them get through situations, or, my family has done their wedding receptions here forever, and that's what we're going to do too. And I'd like to think that next year is going to be 40 years in just this building alone. Um, and I really think that the plan is going to be for, the next 40 years at least. Uh, I will. I'm not going to drop a hint, but ideally, I would love to build a building in our parking lot and tear this building down and make it a parking lot. And every time I say that to my board, they kind of they all get hazy eyed and like they're having a stroke or something. I'm just like, really, I haven't come up with all the plans yet, but my goal is to someday have. I mean, the building isn't. It doesn't look bad, but it's older. We try and keep it updated and looking nice, but it would be nice if it was just a little better organized, a little better access for the trucks that come in for our deliveries, and some state of the art inventory stuff. But those are all just big dreams. Right now, I just worry about that individual that walks in the door that is struggling and has a hard time talking about it. Uh, I want to make sure that they feel really, really safe about being here. And I'll tell you, the 2 years ago, leadership of Ashtabula County, they came in and wanted to talk about social services in Ashtabula County and the things that we did here. That morning, I decided that I was, for the students, these were all high school kids, I was going to conceal myself as a homeless person. And basically, I came in. Nobody knew I was doing this. My staff, nobody knew. One secretary knew I was doing it. And so I'm sitting in the lobby and I'm just sitting there waiting. And as the staff was coming in, it was interesting because I hadn't said anything to anybody, but we had a very long training about this afterwards because I realized that while my staff is wonderful, I absolutely love everybody here. They're in the positions that they need to be in. I take a lot of time and effort in figuring out, is this person right for what I want them to do? Not just giving them a job, not just, we have a longevity thing here. A lot of the people that have been here 5, 10, 15 years. Dennis Rout, who is here for 20 years, I think, he just retired 2 years ago. People have a tendency to get here and they want to stay here and help. And those are the kind of people I'm looking for. So I'm sitting in the lobby and my staff comes in, and I'm even sitting there at one point, and one of my staff members is standing in the lobby talking to that receptionist, and they said, literally, "Where's Mr. Tattrie? Is he coming in?" And I was sitting 3 feet away from him.
No, man.
And I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of listening to this. And so they get to work and what they're doing. They don't know who I am. And I get up and I walk into the hall area where all the high school kids that come in off the bus, and they saw me sitting there and everything. Even the teachers from leadership didn't know who I was or what I was doing or where I was. The receptionist came in and told them he's with a homeless person. He's working with a homeless person right now. He'll be out in just a few minutes. So as the homeless person, I came out and I started walking through the lobby, and I had set up in the hall this table with some muffins and orange juice and stuff on it. So as a homeless person, I walked over towards the table, and I could sense every eye in the entire room was on me. They were all seated and waiting. And I walked over to the table and I grabbed a couple of muffins and I stuffed them in my pockets, and I grabbed one and I stuffed it into my mouth, and I grabbed a thing of orange juice and chugged that down. And I started walking across the hall to the other doorway. And I kind of glanced over at them, and every one of them, their eyes are just pinned on me as they're walking across. And I stopped and I turned and I looked at them and I said, "What are you guys looking at?" And every one of their heads are turned down and they're looking at me. And the teacher was kind of like, "Oh, sorry, that they're just, high school kids," and trying to make an excuse as to why they were staring at me. And I just kind of kept walking towards the door, and I stopped again. And I turned around and I looked at them, and this time I'm like staring at them. And I kind of walked back over towards them, and now they're getting a little nervous. And the teacher started getting a little bit nervous. And I said, "You really shouldn't judge somebody by just how they look." And I kind of lifted my head up and I pulled my wig off and my hat off, and I started undoing my camouflage coat that I was wearing. And underneath it, I had a suit and tie on.
Oh, wow.
And I pulled all this stuff off. And as soon as I pulled the hair off, the teacher knew who I was. And the kids were just looking at me. And I said, this is what we deal with every day. The staff people, we have to get out of this mindset of, making all of our judgments about why somebody is, everybody always has the answer. "Oh, homeless person, they just need to go get a job." That to so many people is the answer to everything. When a lot of these people, going to get a job is way down on the list. That is not their biggest issue. A lot of their issues are just talking to somebody, just being able to, figure out how I'm going to get through my day without the anxiety and the things that they're dealing with. Getting a job is not always just the answer. Now, there are some people that it would help if they would just go get a job and figure out, there are some capable people that are struggling with other areas, whether it's addiction or, there's all kinds of things that people are dealing with. But what I wanted my staff to know, because after this, all of a sudden it's throughout the building. That homeless guy that was sitting in the lobby was Mr. Tattrie. That's who, and so that next day called the mandatory staff meeting, and I said, "Let's have a talk." I said, "Everybody that came through that door, not one of you said good morning to me. Not one of you said, 'Have you been helped? Is there anything that I can do for you?'"
Right.
And that is what the culture I want in this building is, that somebody coming through that door, most of the people that come through our door, they're not having a good day. Whatever struggle it is that they're dealing with, it's usually not something that, you want to be having to deal with. But the fact that they came through the door, they got up enough courage to leave their house, that they got in their car, they drove all the way over here, they got out of their car in the parking lot, because I can't tell you how many times I can look out the window, see people pull in, and they turn around and pull out. That happens all the time. And what's sad about it is I can't stop them. I can't. I need them to have enough courage just to come in and talk to me. I don't know if I can fix anything. I don't know if I can help them at all. But if I don't have a conversation with them, I can't help them, because I don't go looking for stuff. Because if I walked outside of these doors and just walked down the street going, "Hey, anybody need help? Anybody need help?" I would be miserable every day of my life. But if you're willing to take the steps to walk in the door, I'm willing to take the time and put into the effort to see if there's something I can do to make your life better, to make you feel like not everything is closing in around you, that you don't have options. If I can give you one option for one thing, maybe you'll expand and say, "Hey, could you help me with this too?" And I may or may not be able to. But I'd like to think that, just like when I was on the ambulance, when somebody calls 911, it's because they can't figure out what to do. And when you're in that place, it's hard. It makes getting up in the morning hard. It makes going to work hard. It makes trying to, raise your kids. If you're struggling in your own head of how to get things done, how are you going to teach your kids how to get things done?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I really feel like I'm on a sermon today.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just your whole thing. You do so much,
Yeah.
and yeah. I mean, did we even touch on the health department being there?
A little bit, just that they were in the building. I mean, they do so much. Nichelle and I, the health commissioner, she and I have a great relationship. We talk almost daily about things that are going on, things that we can help people with, um, and it's nice to be able to have somebody else in that vision position where she has a staff, I have a staff. If we can get them working together to accomplish something, it makes things unbelievably smooth, and she and I are almost always on the same page about how we can help. We have our moments where we argue about a lot of things too, and her being I always give her a hard time because she's a government agency, and that tape side of things that she has to cut through, that I don't have to cut through. I mean, I can't. My board watches me. I mean, at the end of the day, they decide whether I work here or not. And if I step on too many toes on my board and I get enough of them angry at me, I get nervous about that. But at the same time, they trust me to accomplish things, not be frivolous with our funds. Anytime I'm giving anybody money for help, whether it's a utility or rent or $10 because they're hungry right now, I always look at it from the standpoint of, could I stand in front of my donor who gave me money to help people? Can I stand in front of them and say, this is what I did and this is why I did it? And it's the same way with my board. If I believe that this help is going to sustain somebody long term. Now, I will tell you, there's a lot of people that come through the door, and when I do the math of what their income is and what their expenses are, and I see that it's not going to work, I've had to turn people away and say, I can't help you, but I'm going to call other agencies. And there's been times where I said, I'm not going to pay a $900 rent that you have because I think you're going to get evicted anyways next month. But what I will do is I'll pay 300 of it, and if I can get two other organizations to each pay 300, and it reduces our risk of just throwing money away, and if you honestly believe that this can help, I'll go along with you one time. If the numbers don't add up, I have a tendency to kind of go, I can't help you. But if people believe and if they think that they are able to maintain this, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Oftentimes, when I get in that situation, I have a tendency to where my wallet comes out instead of my forms to fill out to get a check cut. Um, but that's my own personal choice, because I'm not confident to be able to stand in front of my board and say, hey, I used our funds to help this person, and they ended up getting evicted anyways. To me, that's me failing at my job if I can't maintain them long term. I could pay everybody's rent, every any month that they wanted to. I could literally pay a rent. That's not the point of what we do. That doesn't enhance your life. It gets you by another month, but it doesn't help you. If I get you into budgeting classes, if I get you into, if we look at some of your expenses and go, we need to get rid of this. We need to get this number down. If I can help them and they see it and they, commit to doing these things and they are able to maintain in their home with their kids long term, it's a win-win. I win because I told the donor, hey, this guy he's thriving right now, and your $500 that I put towards his rent made that happen. That's why people give. They don't give to help me keep my lights on. They help to make sure that that person and their kids are surviving, and that's what makes it a benefit to everybody. The donor wins because they're happy about they help somebody. I win because I stand in front of my board and they go, good job. And the person wins because they're staying in their house longer.
Right.
That's a big part of my job. That I don't know if you see the book behind me, that's on my desk, but it's about the ask. It's about when I have to ask people for funding and help. It's really hard. That's why 2 years ago, I went to the board and I said, look, we spend money on programs. Everything that we do is spending money. I wanted to implement something that we did that showed the community we're willing to work and put our money towards the center as well. So we started bingo on Tuesday nights. Go through the licensing process. My board is on board. They help every single Tuesday night. I call numbers of bingo every Tuesday night all year long. And Tuesday night used to be at the fire department, it was our training night. And so all week long, I have these things that I do in the evenings, and Tuesday night was always my night to do whatever I wanted to do. And I went to the board and I said, I want to do this bingo thing. And they're like, well, what night do you want to do it? And I said, well, Friday nights are usually pretty open for me. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do Friday nights. And I said, well, the only other night I have is Tuesday. And they all said, great. And I went, no, wait, that's my only night to be able to do something. I can't give up my only Tuesday night. And sure enough, I no longer have my Tuesday nights to myself anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. So last night was a bingo night, but that has been instrumental. When I ran all the numbers and I did the math, it took me about 6 months to convince each board member this is what I wanted to do. This is what it looked like. It's going to generate $500 every Tuesday night for us, which is like $2,000 a month, which when you look at our year, we used to do 2 big fundraisers. One of them was the Rib Fest in the fall in September. We used to generate anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. It was a big event for us. But now doing bingo every Tuesday night, so we always, when we would get those proceeds from that event, we'd have to spread it out over the whole year. And now we have this cash flow of every Tuesday night. So my finance director, Diana Spencer, she loves it because she doesn't have to transfer money from savings into payroll to get people paid and to do all these other things with money. We actually have started a cash flow, which is huge for us, because the only cash flow we ever had, checks would come in, donations, mail, and that sort of thing, but we weren't doing something consistently that we knew was going to come in every week. And now we do. And that has been huge for us, a breathing room as far as, are we going to be able to make payroll this week? And so that's just been phenomenal as far as changing our perspective and being a part of the community, because I know that, so bingo, everybody that works, it's all volunteers. Nobody gets paid anything to do this. So I know that every night that I work on a Tuesday night, my donation back to the center is being paid by that bingo night that I'm working. And I can sit in front of any donor and say, I make donations every week. It's of my time, but that time is directly related to money that's coming into the building. It's a really good program, and it really helps to be able to ask other people for money and be able, we're showing the community that we're willing to work and provide, 2.5 hours every Tuesday night of some good entertainment. I play music. We have dance contests. We have our 2-year anniversary coming up on August 27th. That'll be our 2 years of doing bingo now. And so it's going to be a big night, lots of giveaways, lots of money going out the door. So it's a good thing, and it's really helped us tremendously.
And it's a safe environment.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So what's on the, I guess, looking towards the future?
Yep.
Um, what's where do you see the Conneaut Human Resource Center 10 years down the road?
Wow. So if we just look at it being in this building, next year's our 40th anniversary. Um, it's funny because last weekend I had my 40th anniversary, not anniversary, my 40th high school reunion. And it was very interesting to see a lot of the people that were there. A lot of people told me, "Oh, you're easy to identify. You don't look that much different than you did in high school." And I'm like, "Excellent, good job." But as I'm looking at a lot of my friends and a lot of the people that I went to high school with, a lot of them don't look the same. Um, I was amazed at how many of the guys didn't have hair, didn't have, they looked like life had beat them up over the last 40 years. Um, and I think that's going to be our transition for the next 10 years. Is I think there's going to be this change of what our clientele looks like. So we've been doing this a long time, and I will tell you there are some generational families that have come through the doors, whether it's food pantry or needing assistance with bills and that sort of thing. Um, but I think there's also this other clientele that we're seeing, and it's the maybe the single parent. It may even be both parents are in the house, but one of them is at home raising the kids, and the other one is working. And that working parent is doing everything they can, but they're still struggling. And I think what's going to happen over the next 10 years is a lot more of those families are going to start happening. We'd like to think that salaries and pay rates and things are getting high enough to where people can survive. But, when we look at just fuel prices over the past few years, I think I remember 3 years ago or so, we were paying $2.20, $2.40 a gallon of gas. It's now $1 more, which is like a 33% increase of what it was. That's huge. Grocery stores, a head of lettuce should not cost $4.
Whew.
And that's the kind of thing that I'm worried about where people are going to end up. Even the ones that 4 years ago were surviving, those people are going to be, I don't want to say sucked into needing services, but that's what it feels like sometimes, because it's like a whirlpool and people are swimming in it. And you're a good swimmer and you got a good job, and your kids are doing good, they're healthy, they're getting good grades in school. What happens when the parent loses the job? What happens when somebody's health isn't what it needs to be, or one of the kids gets really sick, or there's just a million things that can happen in an instant that make surviving really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And what I would love to be able to do, and what I'd be able to see, is a a community of businesses and the people in the community, where they decide that the whole community is important, from the very wealthiest family to the very poorest family, from the most educated family to the least educated family, that we all realize that we're living in this little bubble in Northeast Ohio. And if we all don't decide to make everybody's life better, it's going to hurt us in the end. Society, some sociology stuff that I've learned in the past about when you look at a community, you can tell a lot about it by how they treat their kids and how they treat the elderly, because those two things are the most vulnerable populations that we have. And if we're not taking care of them, it really reflects on what you think is important. We have this beautiful lake. People are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on their boats and the things that they want to have. I'm all for it. If you have the money to be able to do that and you want to spend money on that, that is your absolute choice. I said, but just remember, when you're driving into town and you're passing that homeless person on the park bench, and you're pulling behind you that $200,000 boat that you're going to drop in the lake for the day. That's a weekday because you were able to take a vacation day and sit in the lake and fish all day long. Just remember, there are people that don't get to do that. Now, it sounds like I'm trying to put a guilt trip on people, but it's not about a guilt trip. It's about realizing that everybody's trying to get along, everybody's trying to do the best they can. And if we all just kind of go, hey, I can help you with that. I can give you a job. I can make a donation to the Human Resource Center. So the next time that family is struggling, it's there to be able to help you. I don't have to know about it happened. I know that Ryan at the Human Resource Center is going to help that person, and that's going to be good. Um, and that's where I guess I want our image to be out there in the people, in the public. If you come across somebody, and I know this happens because my board members do it to me all the time. I got a phone call one night. I went home. It was about 5 o'clock, and I got a call about 7:30 at night, and I I hear, hey, there's a homeless guy walking down Route 7 heading towards the old Burger King. Go help him. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? It's Friday night. It's 7 o'clock. Don't you think I have plans and I'm out doing something? And they said, no, you don't do anything. Go help this person. So I get in my car, I drive out there, and he tells me about how he's living in a storage unit. And he literally walks to and from the storage unit, opens it up, crawls inside of it, and that's where he was sleeping at night. Um, so we ended up getting him a lot of help. But I want people to know that when you come across somebody, giving them $20 is great if you can help them. And don't. That's another thing about that $20 or $10 or whatever it is that you're going to give that person. Once you give it to them, it's really hard not to think about putting stipulations on it. Hey, don't buy drugs, don't buy alcohol, don't, and you really need to focus on the fact that, if you're willing to give somebody money because you think they might be hungry or whatever it is, help them. Once it's out of your hands, let it go. It is not worth your anxiety that you'll end up never helping anybody again if you think about what it might be going towards or how it is affecting this person negatively or something like that. A lot of people say, well, I'm not going to give somebody money, but I'll go buy them food. Okay, that's a good thing too. I mean, I'm not sure that I hope no McDonald's owners. This is just kind of a general statement. Whether or not that person goes and buys a 6-pack of beer with that money, or whether they go and buy a fast food restaurant, not really diet conscious kind of food, I'm not sure which one is worse for them. It's one of those kind of things where people, once you give it up, let it go, let them make their choices. Helping doesn't always have to come with stipulations. So I think for the future, I want our image to change into this helpful place that also, it's not just because you don't need help doesn't mean you shouldn't stop by and see me, doesn't mean you shouldn't help volunteer on produce day. We get 12,000 pounds of food from the Cleveland Food Bank first Monday of every month. I have to give that out in one day. That's a lot of food going out, a lot of food being sorted. There's always opportunities here to help. If you like doing gardening, we've let the garden rest now for 2 years. We had somebody here that was doing work with it, putting out 500, 700 pounds of food every year out of our own garden. If you like gardening, we can set you back up with a nice piece of, property that has really good soil. The food grows tremendously back there. If you're interested in helping with any of the seniors, if you've got a skill or a hobby that you like to do and you think some seniors would like to do it, talk to Joanne. You know, my senior director, she loves bringing in new people, new programming, having the seniors do neat things. The Right Track program, if you want to help with some of the after school programs, for if you have kids that are in high school, we have opportunities for them to get volunteer hours that they need to have for high school anyways. So
Right.
they might as well come and help with the kids and do those kind of things. We have all kinds of, I really want our image over the next 10 years to become a leader in the community of making sure that everybody's life is enhanced, not just the people that come through the door that need the help. I want to be able to say to somebody that makes, you know, I was speaking with a guy, it's probably been about 3 months ago. I played pickleball with him, and he's done very well for himself. We had a conversation about what I do here and how the organization and the people that are here, how they help people. And it was probably a half-hour conversation. And he was like, I cannot believe all the things that you do in this building. He goes, you know what? He goes, here's what's going to happen. I said, I'm going to meet with my lawyer. I'm going to redo my will, and I'm going to change what's going to happen to me with my resources when I pass away. And he didn't say any numbers. He didn't say anything that, you know, and I don't even know if it's true or not. But I know in that conversation, he was touched by the fact that there's so many things that go on inside of this building and so many opportunities for him to help without ever having to be here, without ever having, you know, people can help without having to step foot inside the building. And he is willing to do that. And that's the kind of thing that I want people to realize, that the organization and what I'm trying to do here is an important thing for the community. And hopefully in 10 years from now, maybe it'll be a brand new booming building, and people will just come in here, you know, to sit. Maybe we have a coffee shop in the lobby where people just come in and say hello. And you know, the vision is big. Um, I don't know if we're ready for it, but maybe in 10 years, maybe we will be, Dave.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I come across a statement that I think that you probably actually said that just kind of sums up just who the Human Resource Center is, and that statement was compassion for others who struggle is the hallmark of the CHRC. That was just,
Yeah.
and I know that's not your mission statement, but
No,
that was such a remarkable line.
no, but I'm thinking my next board meeting, I might make a recommendation that we add it to it, because it's about compassion. It's about being able to look at somebody and go, I have something that I can give you that will make both of our lives better. Um, that's exactly what it is. That's what it's all about.
Fascinating, fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of the stuff that you actually do.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm sure we have not even tipped the iceberg yet. You know, because yeah, it's just there's so many programs, so much that the Human Resource Center actually does. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's going to be maybe this can end up being a, you know, yearly, bring directors of each one of the programs. I mean, they talk. I like to think I talk passionately about what I'm doing. A lot of them do the same. They believe in what they're doing and how important it is. And I think, you know, I'm proud of the things that we're doing here.
I would like this to be a continuous, you know, maybe not on a yearly basis, but maybe every 6 months or something, coming on and actually
Yeah,
having, that conversation.
absolutely. We'll put it in the books.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave.
Yep. All right, guys. Hey, that is it for us today. What a beautiful conversation. I'm I'm at awe. I just so much stuff that actually goes on at the Human Resource Center. Just totally just amazes me. Um, very honored to actually have met Ryan. Um, enjoy your day. It is a beautiful day out there today. Um, if you think about it, uh, lend some helping hands at the Human Resource Center. Lots of opportunity there, and I think it'll go to a really good thing. So enjoy your day, and we will be back soon. Thank you so much.